Parenthood, where we explore the beautiful chaos of parenting. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Parenthood. I'm Neha Garg, and I'm so thrilled to have you with us today. On this podcast, we dive into the unique, challenging, and always inspiring journeys of parenthood. Each week, we bring you stories from incredible parents who share their experiences, insights, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, we are diving into the journey of an incredibly successful working professional who, along with her amazing partner, is raising a thriving little boy. Joining me in conversation is Deepti Naithani. Deepti, welcome to Parenthood.
Thank you, Neha. I'm so happy and excited to be here.
I am so excited. And as always, before we start, we'd love to delve into your story. Let's get to know a bit about you. Three words or phrases that capture who you are.
Maturity first, definitely. Being dependable, yes, because that's how my husband describes me. Third, I feel kind. I think that's something, and I'm very proud of the fact that I can call myself kind. I think kindness is a language that's not spoken too often these days.
So glad to hear that. Very, very powerful words, short words, but very powerful words. And if we were to talk about your life as a book, what would be its title? What does the story look like?
So I've actually been the elder one in my family. In fact, I'm the eldest sibling amongst all my cousins, etc. So I've just always been like this person जो पैदा ही बूढ़ा हो गया. I often see myself like a rock or like an anchor who's just there, and there's a world revolving around me, and I'm there to like keep everyone together, hold everyone.
Yeah.
And that's why I also said dependable, because I feel that when I play that part and when I play that role, that's a way of keeping people closer to me.
Wow.
And for them to just be around me could be my own selfish interest. Yes, I would want to have them around me.
Yeah.
But I think I kind of play that role so that, they feel the need to be around me and to keep coming to me and, maybe discussing things. So I feel like that's who I am.
Wow. It's very beautiful that you say that. I love how it hints at the self awareness that you hold because you say that you do it selfishly, but I don't know if that's selfish or not. But beautiful, beautiful description. Love that. And now tell us about your incredible big little family, your 4.5 years old son, Ivaan, and your partner of many, many, many years, Gurjot.
Yeah.
You share a bit about them.
So actually, like you said, yeah, we're a small but a very happy family.
Mhm.
Gurjot and I, we started dating when we were in college.
Wow,
So
you're college
we,
sweethearts.
yes, I think mostly first love or like first serious love kind. So I think we were dating for about 8 years before we got married.
Mhm.
We were married for 10 years.
Mhm.
And that's when we decided to have Ivan. Right now, in my small family, it's me, Gurjot, and Ivan, of course.
Yeah.
But I also have, when I moved to Bangalore,
Mhm.
my in laws and Gurjot's grandparents also moved with us.
Oh.
Yeah, we are a family where four generations are together, stay in separate homes. So
Uh-huh.
Gurjot, I, and Ivan stay in one apartment. Mama, Papa, and Daji Dadima stay in another apartment in the same complex, like literally 50 meters away. We are very much together, and yet we are quite independent in our own ways. Of course, I have my side of the family staying in Bombay, but
Uh-huh.
immediately I think my little big family is also that, the three of
Right.
us, and then of course the four of them there. Full four generation kind of a setup that we have here.
That sounds wonderful. And what a blessing to have family with you and
Yes.
elders with you to take care of you as well as your son. And how are Ivan and Gurjot like as people?
They look alike. I think that is something that pisses me off, because I think, I like there's so much of hard work and effort that I put in.
Yeah.
Like एक part तो मेरे जैसे हो जाता है, maybe the eyes or the nose or the lips, but my son is like a carbon copy of my husband. So Gurjot is a very, very independent person. Because we've known each other for many years, I think I still look at him and I would still judge him like I would judge a friend or think about a friend.
Yeah.
So Gurjot is very independent, very driven, very focused. He's one of those people who will be excellent at everything, or at least he will want to be excellent at everything.
Right.
So he's like a overachiever of sorts. So he likes to be that way. He's also very so because of that kind of the kind of ambitions that he has and the kind of aspirations that he has in life. He's also somebody who's very disciplined,
Right.
who's very guarded about what he does. He's somebody who can prioritize very, very well. to make time for himself, for me, for
Yeah.
Ivan, for the rest of the family. So if I
Right.
were to think about him, I think, yeah, I think he's somebody who's very driven, very self-motivated, very disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
and he's somebody who knows exactly what he wants, and he'll get to that.
Right.
A little bit, I think what sometimes happens is in this whole effort of, being like excellent at everything, sometimes I feel that he loses on the softer aspects of things. It happens
Right.
when you're just in that group. So
Yeah.
I think that's why probably I compliment him and we compliment each other that way. Not that I'm not a achiever or a
Right.
self-driven person
We
myself,
know
but I
that.
think sometimes, he's a bit like sometimes he kind of misses out on the softer things.
Right.
But on the other hand, Ivan, for example, I think he's a very nice, kind boy. I think those are the two things that I would say that A, he's very nice, he's very kind, and then
Mm.
there are of course a host of other things that I can talk about him. But as a person, I think because of the kind of setup that we have,
Yeah.
because like literally there's a whole four generations around him. So
Yeah.
it's everyone's endeavor to just generally raise a good kid. So
Right.
Ivan, for that matter, like I said, of course, he's very nice, he's very kind. He's also somebody who's very emotionally very aware of things. He's actually a very emotional person. His soft skills are really good because again, he's kind of growing up with so many people. Our grandparents are actually like Darji is about 96 years old, Dadima is
Wow.
92. So he knows exactly how to handle himself around them.
Yeah.
He realizes that they're while they're much older, they're just like children, and you have to be gentle around them. He should be helping them all the time. Yeah, if they're just walking around in the house, he'll go hold their hand and say, "Okay, let me take you to the other room." So I think those kind of softer things is what he's
Yeah.
right now, and he's also at a very impressionable age.
Yeah.
He's just 4.5. So
Yeah.
right now, I think all we care about is that, fundamentally, as a child, he becomes a strong child that way.
Yeah.
Our focus is more on his emotional development and emotional learning because we do feel that the kind of world that he will grow into, I mean, maybe 20, 30 years down the line,
Yeah.
everything's going to be a lot more machine run.
Right.
And I feel that the more we equip him to handle the emotional side of things, I think maybe that's something that will help him in the future. Touch wood, we were blessed that the whole setting became like that, which is why I feel very proud to say that, Ivan is just generally growing up to be a very nice, very kind boy. And definitely, I do feel that he's quite intelligent and smart, but I think all moms feel like that about their children. But when I do see him around the way I see him with people, I think these things sort of stand out.
I
That's,
think,
I think,
yeah, credit goes to obviously you and Gurjot as parents, and of course, having the big family around. And it just sounds like, a family built
yes,
on love, teamwork, and open communication. And
absolutely.
you also mentioned, Deepti, that it has been mostly smooth thanks to the teamwork. So,
Yes.
uh, could you elaborate more on that? Like, how you and Gurjot, both of you, and then the older generations, how do
Mhm.
all of you approach parenting as teamwork?
I think one of the things, Neha, was that we had consciously decided to have Ivan late. We knew that we didn't want to become parents very early on in life. We had Ivan after 10 years of marriage. By that time, I think we'd spent enough time with each other. And of course, we were dating for many years before
Yeah.
that. I think we knew very clearly as to why we want a child
Mm-hmm.
and how will our parenting journey look like. So at least
Right.
between us, we were very clear as to how it should. But what's happened is with so many people, of course, then coming in,
Yeah.
and the one thing to also notice that when Ivan was born, a month later, I think we all went into lockdown. So for the first year, of his life, my
Yeah.
parents were with us because that was the first period of lockdown, the first phase of
Right.
lockdown, first
Right.
year when it was very, very strict. After the first year, I think that's when we moved in and my in-laws and everyone else came into the picture. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the way we've also figured is our entire setup is fundamentally based on trust. So there's one thing that Gurjot and I know
Mm-hmm.
that his parents have raised him. I love him. He's the man of my life. So I think I trust that when they raise Ivan, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's the same set of value system
Yeah.
that will get created. So
Yeah.
the first starting point that both of us have with them also is that we trust them fully,
Right.
like
Right.
fully. There
Right.
is not an inch of doubt कि हम नहीं हैं तो ऐसे pamper होगा या
Yeah.
ये खा लेगा या वो होगा, whatever it is. He's with his grandparents
Right.
and if they've managed to raise us in a certain way and be a kind of support, and we trust them. Second important sort of part
Yeah.
of this equation, I don't have a single word for it, but it's about not causing inconvenience to anyone. So which means that, for example, in our daily routine, say for example, Ivan would go to that home after, like he goes to Dadi house after school.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that, Dadi will take care. There is a nanny, while
Yeah.
there's a village to take care of him.
Yeah.
Okay, there are four
Yeah.
pair of eyes and there's
Yeah.
a cook at
Yeah.
home full
Yeah.
time. But there is a nanny who will
Mm.
be around the whole time. So even if somebody else is watching over him, that
Yeah.
nanny might do some other work. She will
Right.
relieve the pressure of someone else somewhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, while her role is that of a nanny and she's supposed to manage Ivan, but the role of that person is to make sure that there is no burden caused because of Ivan on
On
anyone.
someone
And
else.
see, it's not about, your grandchild will never be a burden on you.
Right.
But it's just that they're all sort of like, of course, the grandparents have already aged. My in-laws are aging. It's
Yeah.
not really easy. Children of that age are demanding, toddlers are
Right.
demanding. They'll run, godi uthao, ye karo. So I think that's the other thing that we decided, that we will never take their presence for granted. That,
Mm.
वो लोग हैं तो संभाल लेंगे, वो जरूर संभालेंगे, and there is no doubt about that. And they would always say we don't need an extra support at home. But
Right.
it's just about understanding that, if things become better with that one person,
Mm.
don't take the whole equation for granted. So if I have to just step back and say, absolute trust, having no doubt on anybody, anyone's intention, etc., 100% trust. And second is not taking it for granted, even for a single second,
Yeah,
you know.
that
So I
sounds
think
so fantastic. And the 10 years you took to decide
absolutely.
having a child, you just nailed it down and completely you have made a manual sort of and have a framework in place.
I can say that in hindsight, I mean, with that understanding of what we've seen. But yes, I do feel that this has made a lot of difference and it's had a very, very positive impact on all our lives, like as
Right.
a family also. Because
Yeah.
if you just understand the equation, grandparents are old, they're bound, they cannot step out of the house anymore.
Yeah.
So for them to have a 4-year-old around in the house, somebody talking to them all the time, chatter, 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 it's
Yeah.
really good for them. Otherwise, after
Yeah.
90, what is somebody going to do?
Yeah.
And same goes for my in-laws, they're just, so they have him around all the time. So he enters at home and he's the prince, of that home. So of
Pace.
Dadi
Yeah.
house, he's the prince of Dadi house. Like you say
Yeah.
it and things will happen. So
Yeah.
much so that he doesn't like coming to like his house, like our house. So he's like, I don't want to be in Ivan house. I don't like Ivanu house. I like Dadi house. So I think that's how the whole equation and the dynamics is sort of set in like that. Because of this, I think I'm very, very happy to say and very proud to say that Touchwood, as a family, we have a excellent positive equation.
Yeah.
Like my mother-in-law and I are super thick. When you build that relationship on basis of trust and respect, I think that's how it goes. So they also, of course, acknowledge. I mean, it's the acknowledgement is both sides. It's a more mature and a restrained version of hum saath hain. So dialogue bazi or shosha bazi nahi hota, but it's a very restrained version of yes, we're all in.
So
Yeah.
when are we going to see it on the big screen?
Oh no, that's let it just be like that. I don't want the Barjatias to come and do something to it. But no, but that's how it is, yeah.
I'm also very interested to know about how Ivan came into the picture in terms of,
Hmm.
you mentioned that he was a preterm baby and
Hmm.
also had jaundice when he was born.
Hmm.
What was that like? How did you handle that? How did you navigate that part?
The pregnancy was pretty smooth. I think first 3 months we had a bit of complication,
Mm-hmm.
and towards the end, I was just supposed to be on bed rest for a bit.
Yeah.
But mostly the pregnancy was smooth, so we didn't ever feel, कि कुछ होगा. But he was to come in March, and I think 3rd Feb in the morning,
Yeah.
my water broke,
Oh,
and it was at least 4 weeks in advance.
yeah.
So, so when he came, we were actually completely unprepared.
Right.
He सोचा ही
Yeah.
नहीं, मतलब we hadn't
Yeah.
even started buying. In fact, my baby shower was planned for that weekend. Like he came on Monday, and Saturday was my baby shower. The thing is, we were not prepared to
Right.
have him so soon. And then when he came, he was of course very frail because he was like some
Yeah.
2.5 kgs.
Yeah.
And then because of jaundice, he lost weight further. And
Right.
the first night itself, we had to keep him in NICU. Of course, my water broke, but मुझे labor pains ही नहीं हो रहे थे. So I
Hmm.
wasn't feeling anything, So
Right.
the water broke at 7 in the morning, and up until 4, I wasn't getting labor pains, even after them inducing, the pain nahi
Yeah.
ho raha tha. So eventually, the doctor said that, we'll have to do a C-sec, which we were completely okay with. But one of the things is that in the C-sec, you're given your anesthesia,
Yeah. At
waist
the one
down.
down.
But because of some goof up that my doctor did, because I was actually not even a goof up, because nobody had anticipated that the child would come early. I was on a medicine, and with that medicine, I had to be given a general anesthesia.
Oh my God.
So actually, when the baby happened, I didn't get to see him. And
Yeah.
then afterwards, when I kind of came to my senses, and it's because he was born, like I went to the operation theater at 4:30. I came out at whatever, but I came to my senses at 7. And by
Uh-huh.
then I realized that there's no baby here. And then
Yeah.
everybody said, no, he's in NICU. And then they said, no, you cannot go and you have your stitches. And I was like, how can I not go to see the baby? And they said, no,
Yeah.
no, now it's NICU, it's the timing here. And I said, I'm a mother, I have to feed.
Yeah.
And but I was also just too drawn out and exhausted. So I got to see him actually after 12 hours, because I went next day in the morning at 5, because I was like, what the hell is this? I want to see my
Yeah.
baby. So then they sent me to NICU. And by that time, when I saw him, he was so frail,
Fragile.
so
So
fragile. And
little.
I was like, my God, isko touch bhi karungi to kya hoga? I mean, he was still amongst the healthier
Health.
children in NICU.
Yeah.
So, which is actually what kept me going, because the first time I went and I went alone, because not everybody's allowed in
Yeah.
NICU. And I saw him kept in that, incubator that way.
Incubator.
And it was a bit, I was almost about to cry. And then I saw other babies, and, इंडियन पेरेंट्स से कंपैरिजन तो पहले ही आ जाएगा, मतलब कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस, थोड़ा तो
Yeah.
हमारा बच्चा अच्छा लग रहा है, मतलब relatively देख के. And then the nurses assured me that they said it's very normal and jaundice happens, and of course the rest of the family also said so. So we were pretty okay about it. In
Mm.
fact, the whole phase of NICU was also fine. The only thing that I would find very discomforting was that I had to go down and feed him every time,
Yeah.
because. And then when they discharged me, it was very weird going back home without a baby.
Without a baby.
But having said that, I think that phase when he was in NICU was okay. We got over that. I think it was once we brought him home,
Mm.
that's when, it started to get a bit complicated, because jab tak he was in doctor's care, we were very
Yeah.
sure of things. But
Yeah.
once we got him home, suddenly we didn't know like how to handle it. And the doctor
Yeah.
said that, maybe he needs to be, and they said no medication needed with
Yeah.
breast milk, etc. It will just, kind
Yeah.
of go by itself. But 2 weeks, 3 weeks, ja hi nahi raha hai. And after week 2, then the doctor said that, you might have to show him a little bit of sunlight in the morning. So he said, you keep it for 10, 15, you can show him the morning sun, 10, 15 minutes. But we started like keeping him for a little longer.
Yeah.
So a baby who was born like white pink, became like toast bread by the end of a month. इतना tan हो गया था, but it took more than a month for his jaundice to go out fully. So
Mm.
that was the period when we felt a bit anxious. We felt like we weren't in. See, of course, when a baby enters your life, it's not like you're in control in any case. I mean, it's a bit of a chaos. But seeing that baby just continuously lose weight, seeing the baby to be so frail, like, even the smallest size diaper is big, even the
Yeah.
smallest size clothes are like big. So when you
Yeah.
see that, you feel a bit anxious, and second, I think there were moments that I would think, like, did I take full care of myself in my pregnancy? Could things have been done differently? You start to kind of question those things also.
Right.
But then at the same time, good sense prevails, and you say to yourself, "Nahi, chalo, he also came 4 months in advance. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, 4 weeks in advance."
Yeah.
But you still go through that whole phase of, self-doubt, questions. In most cases, because doctors see such kids every day. So forever,
Right.
koi nahi, theek ho jayega. But you are a parent and you've had this child after 10 years and the whole world was waiting for it. बच्चा हो गया, and then everybody was a bit, sometimes I would feel that nobody in my immediate family would ever say so, ever.
Hmm.
But sometimes I could hear this, murmurs of maybe jaldi karte to better hota.
Hmm.
Your immediate family will never say anything like
Yeah.
that to you, but sometimes you do get a feeling from a
Yeah.
bit of a larger set of people, and or sometimes even friends, maybe who
Yeah.
have older kids. So those kind of things just got us thinking whether we've done something wrong or maybe we missed something,
Yeah.
at least during that phase of jaundice. I think
Right.
once that phase went, and then we also grew a bit more confident. But initially, I think that gave us a lot of doubts, and we started questioning ourselves as to did we do a few things right. So I think that's how it was, a bit of anxiety, self-doubt, and just hoping and thinking that we are doing the right things because
Yeah.
एक point के बाद you really don't know, right? It's a
Yeah.
tiny little baby.
I am reminded of my own journey because my son Rishan also was admitted twice in NICU for jaundice.
Mm.
Though
Mm.
the stays were shorter, my stitches were still fresh. I was fresh out of surgery, and the same thing.
Mm.
I think two
Mm.
things stand out here. One, that in my hospital, NICU and the maternity ward, they were very, very close. So they just had a alley in between,
Mm.
so the mothers could
Mm.
go there very easily and feed the child
Mm.
and see the child. So that is there. And second thing that stands out to me is this whole thing of comparison. Like my husband and I both were just freaking out that such a little
Mm.
child, and all that is fine, when the
Mm.
baby is there for the day, it's fine, but when you
Mm.
have to come back home
Oh,
without the baby,
yeah.
it's like you don't know how to be,
Yes.
how, and he's in the best care because you
Yeah.
can't care for the child. You don't
Absolutely.
have the either the expertise or the resources to take care of
Absolutely.
that ailing child, but still you feel that you have committed some treason, or
Yeah.
what is it that you are doing coming home without a child, and then you
Right.
see the kids around, as you said,
Mm.
who were battling such
Yeah.
complicated situations and such unfortunately scenes. That reminds
Yeah.
me of a particular day when we were supposed to go in for a regular consultation after his jaundice was cleared. And that day, his neonatologist was going to see us in the ICU only, in the NICU only, but because they had a complicated case coming in, and we were waiting for a very long time, and we were flustered, and we were like, what is happening? And then suddenly, just before we went in, and I'm sorry to say this, it's a trigger warning, we saw a little boy being wrapped and taken away.
Wow.
And we got to know that he was one of the twins who were born preterm
Mm.
at 6 months or even less, 5.5 months, and who
Mm.
didn't survive. And his sister, the twin sister, was still battling for life. And he was the healthier baby, according to
Oh.
the whole thing. So that was quite a dampener for the entire team. There were multiple sets of parents outside
Mm.
the NICU because when your baby is
Mm.
outside, you're just waiting
Mm.
outside. So there were all these parents, there was the entire staff, and there were, of course, the doctors, the specialists. And then immediately when that happened, we were supposed to go in for our consultation. And the doctors were, of course, very, very disheartened. And you see that expression on their face. And he was really upset. And I just could not ask my questions. I was asking my question, and I just felt like, what am I even concerned about? My concern is not even a concern. They've
Mm.
they've just handled this case, and
Mm.
they've just done this. And how do I ask him that, he has a sty in his eye? Like,
Mm.
that's nothing. It'll go away. At least I have my
Mm.
baby with me. So
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think that's what happens when, for me, it's my baby, and, it's above everything else. But for the doctors, it
Yeah.
comes to putting them in that
Yeah.
order. I mean, thanks for sharing that, Deepti. Sounds like, incredibly demanding time
Yeah.
that you had to face.
I think everyone who goes through this, I think this phase of NICU feels that. I'm sure many more people will listen to this. I think people should eventually know that that phase gets over. You move
Right.
past that. And then later on, when you look at your child, touchwood, healthy, fine. I mean, today
Yeah.
when I look at him, we can't even imagine what the NICU days were like. And now they mean nothing. But at that point in time, that's like a super, that's a moment that kind of flusters you, like you said, it sets you back. But
Yeah.
I think over a period, sort of, I think once you start seeing the child thrive, those
Yeah.
memories sort of fade away.
But was it a dampener on all your plans as you had them? I mean, you had it all planned, and then first he came early, then he was in NICU, and then COVID struck. So it's like
Mm.
one thing after the other.
I think him coming early was okay because the only other thing, like the only thing that we really had to handle at that point was that I just had to get off work a bit early. I
Right.
think work-wise, it was a bit of a problem because other than that, like I said, that because we were very prepared to have a child,
Yeah.
I mean, mentally we were fully ready to,
Yeah.
so when he came, even when he came early, like these things, of course, were affecting us, but that's fine. We were just okay. I think it was once he got out of NICU.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, once he got over his jaundice. So he came out of NICU in 10 days, but jaundice lasted a whole 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So jaundice, I think it was the 12th or 13th of March
Yeah.
when the doctor said that, now we can't find jaundice in the system and he's completely all right. And there was a week of
Yeah.
celebration, and then 20th, COVID struck. 20th
Right.
March is when the announcement was made that,
Yeah.
23rd, we go into lockdown. I think lockdown was the part that we found the toughest, because while we had prepared ourselves to be parents and, all of that, we'd also anticipated a certain amount of help that will come from
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
Just while we are raising him, we had thought that we would have cooks and nannies and everyone at home to kind of help us through that journey. But when COVID struck, I mean, all of that, of course, went for a toss.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, they were with us in Bombay. So it's not like we didn't have any support.
Yeah.
But it's just that, and you would know that when you're supposed to do everything by yourself, so everybody at home had taken up responsibilities, right?
Right.
So Mama was handling like the kitchen and the cooking, and Jyot was handling something else. My sister-in-law was handling something else, and everybody was generally busy the whole day. In order to keep me completely like off the stress,
Yeah.
I was of course asked to just be by myself and take care of Ivaan and things like that. So initially, I think it was fine. By the third month, I realized babies also go through their own growth spurt. So by month three, he used to suddenly cry a lot, like cry, 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 cry a lot. And sometimes I would feel that maybe he's hungry and you've just fed him and now you're out of milk and what will you do?
Yeah.
And then we got him hooked onto a bit of formula. So it was both
Yeah.
actually. But
Yeah.
because it suddenly I realized that, he's going through this phase and he's crying a lot and he needed a lot of attention and coddling. And I think those things started getting on me.
Right.
Because एक point के बाद, I was like, somebody take this baby for me
Yeah.
for like an hour or
Yeah.
half an hour.
Yeah.
And while they were all helping, because everybody had their own schedules, they were all
Right.
working. I mean, everybody
Right.
was also working from home. So people were trying more than their best. I was the one who was on maternity break and I had
Yeah.
nothing to do. But I think that phase when you couldn't be as demanding as you would have wanted to be, otherwise you would have said, "अरे मुझे ये चाहिए, वो दे दो, ये हाथ
Yeah.
में ला के दे दो." I think those small things, and they're not even much, but I think that kind of got to me. So
Yeah.
the first 2 3 months after that, I think when the first lockdown had still not, it was
Yeah.
still on. The first lockdown was still on. I remember going through these phases, and I would cry. I would tell Gujot, I would cry and cry. And I like people say motherhood is such a beautiful feeling, and it's supposed to be so blissful. And what shit is this? Why did I get this kind of a motherhood? Because it gets to you. As much
Yeah.
as you love the baby, nobody likes a crying, howling baby. At some
Yeah.
point you're like, isko chup karao kuch karke. And
Yeah.
it's not like you can run to the doctors for every small thing
Everything.
because you were
Yeah.
just not going out.
Yeah.
In fact, even to take him for his vaccinations, we would be so scared because you're taking this tiny little bacha
Yeah.
who's just recovered from jaundice and things like that. It's not like we didn't have help. I mean,
Yeah.
the family was around to help me, but
Yeah.
just that whole phase added a lot of stress. And for the
Right.
first time, I think I didn't know what to do. I was just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Okay, now feed. Now the baby has pooped, so you clean the baby, and now feed again, and then put him to sleep, and then now he's woken up again. And when I'm not feeding him and when he's asleep, and usually I would be pumping. So that whole phase of feeding, pumping, pooping, and it went on for a good 2.5 months.
Yeah.
At least when he turned 5.5. And
Yeah.
then once we started giving him solid food, that's when, like, I that pressure went off me. Ki, chalo,
Right.
theek hai. Because otherwise, while you are like, he was on mixed feed always.
Yeah.
Because day one, like I said, day one, I was under anesthesia. So the
Yeah.
baby had to be fed. So they actually introduced him to formula directly. The first milk that he had was formula milk because I
Yeah.
was not there to kind of feed him. But this phase, this got to me so bad. Like when I look back at pictures on my phone, of course, there are a lot of pictures and they make me smile and you capture the good memories. But I do remember the tough ones also very clearly. And I can imagine how it must have been for all young parents. Like
Yeah.
I said, we were still lucky that we had some family to help us around.
Yeah.
For those, we could only think that, people who are just managing this whole thing by themselves, maybe the husband's working from home
Yeah.
and there could be a wife who's managing like a young baby. Those things, I think that part was, I think the tougher part, which we had not foreseen or anticipated at all. And that's how we didn't know how to react. Basic things like कपड़े नहीं है बच्चे
Yeah.
के. So
Yeah.
eventually, after some time, you did start getting clothes, and Amazon and
Yeah.
everybody first cry started delivering. But
Yeah.
there was a point in time when there weren't enough clothes, when there were no toys.
Yeah.
So what would you do? So you would take empty bottles, put some chole and chana in it, and just keep rattling them.
Yeah.
There are no toys. There's nothing. You're just
Yeah.
like trying to figure out what to do. There's
Yeah.
nothing where you can distract him with sounds or anything. So
Yeah.
in whatever little we had with us, that was it that we were putting to use. And we realized at a young, like a child at that age, you also want to kind of stimulate the child, give
Yeah.
him things to engage with. You know, he would be looking, staring at the ceiling, and you would think कि कोई तो एक toy होता जिसपे हम उसको थोड़ा सा entertain कर पाते हैं. So
Yeah.
those things also just added to, you know, it was like unnecessary
Stress.
stress, you know, कि कपड़े खत्म हो रहे हैं या डायपर खत्म हो रहा है, अब डायपर नहीं है.
Hmm.
Eventually everything got sorted, but that just to go through that phase was just so unnecessary sometimes. You know, in hindsight, you feel like that.
And
It
also
was.
emotions are running high, hormones are all over the place,
Yeah.
and then just there is just so much movement and commotion in the house, and you are stuck in a room with the baby, and you just, and especially I think for women like us who are actually go-getters in life,
Mhm.
and we are not used to sitting in one corner and then feeling that helplessness that ab
Yes.
kya karu.
Yes.
I can imagine that. But so now moving away from, parenthood a little bit, what are your passions like outside of being a mom? What makes you curious?
I'm a person who's very driven by human beings and relationships generally. So
Mm.
while there is of course a part of me that's working and a
Yeah,
part of me there's a professional side of me. But I think what really who I would like to be known more as is more on the personal side of things.
yeah,
So I think outside of work, I don't know if I'll call it a passion, but the one thing that's really important for me is to be connected to my immediate family,
mm,
friends, just to know what's happening, and just I don't ever want to be in a place where I don't get to know things. So I value relationships a lot. So
yeah,
I think the one thing that keeps me ticking out of work, my professional work, is of course relationships and families, and how my own family and the things that I have with them. The other thing that I do for myself now is, like I said, that we became parents quite late in life.
yeah,
So the other thing that really has become very important for me right now is to invest in my own health and fitness.
yeah,
So I consciously take time out for that. And the third thing, of course, work does take a huge part of my day. I mean, it does take away a huge part of my day, sometimes even weekends. I mean, it gets
yeah,
to that. So work is work and it remains, but I just try and kind of bifurcate in my mind, saying, "ठीक है, काम है," and we'll end up doing all of that.
yeah.
But other than that, to just keep me sane and just so that I'm able to give the best to the family that I have here and so that there's a healthy environment and atmosphere at home, I think these two things really matter a lot to me.
So how do you take time out for all of these things? Like, you said two things that matter to you and two things that are actually important, which is your role as a mother and your role as a professional. So these four things primarily. And of course, then your own relationship with Gurjot. I think that's
Hmm.
an overarching thing, which, kind of holds
Mhm.
everything together. So do you have a typical day? What
Yeah.
does it look like?
Morning time is just generally him going to school, me getting to work. Gurjot is an entrepreneur, and right now in Bangalore, he works from home. While he has an office, he prefers working from home. Once I leave for work, my office travel time is
Yeah.
for phone calls. Parents, siblings, cousins, friends. Because I travel I drive to office. So that time is completely, so every day on my way to office and coming back, I'm on the phone with somebody. Then once I get back home, usually I leave from office at around 6.
Yeah.
And then I come back home and continue working because,
Oh,
in Bangalore, you tend to get stuck in traffic. So I'm like,
yeah.
you leave office before 6, you reach home by 6:30. And then,
Right.
of course, work continues up until 8.
Yeah.
Ivan also sort of comes. So Ivan goes after school, he goes to Dadi house
Right.
and he has his lunch there. He sleeps, he has his evening snack. Then he goes down to play. So
Right.
he comes home at 7:45, 8. So
Right.
typically, that's when I kind of stop working. That's when even Gujot stops working.
Right.
And we usually have dinner by 8. So we all
Yeah.
have dinner together. He
Right.
still sits on the high chair. So he's with us at the dining table.
Yeah.
And dinner, maybe 9:30, 10 is when I put the boys to sleep.
Right.
And then usually I work out at night. So
Oh,
9:30, 10 से लेके 10:30, 11, 12, whatever, like 1.5 hours. Whenever I start anywhere between 9:30 to 10:30,
right,
depending on how the day has been. So if I start at 10:30, then maybe 10:30 to 12,
right.
9:30 to 11. So 1.5 hours at night. After my workout, I freshen up a little bit and then I work for an hour, hour and a half after that.
Oh,
I start my morning at 9:45, 10. I mean, when I start work in the morning by
right,
9:45, 10. Some people who are like really, really early risers and they start to work at like 5:36 or 7 in the morning. I'm never a 7 a.m. email person, but I'm a
right.
2 a.m. email person. So I work at night and I kind of catch up on work and prep myself for the rest of the day at night itself. In this setup, I do get enough time because I spend time with Ivan in the morning when I get him
Yeah,
ready for
yeah,
school. We end up having like our own thing. And
yeah.
once he's back home, together we have time as a family for like 1.5, 2 hours before he goes to sleep. That's how the day looks like for me.
And do you think that you get enough time for yourself in this whole thing?
Yeah, I think in fact I get more time for myself than I keep for my kid.
Yeah,
But no, I do. And I think both Gurjot and I have decided that we are never going to be apologetic for wanting time for ourselves
yeah,
and for wanting time with each other. We feel that, if everything becomes about the child, then somewhere you start to lose yourself and your relationship with each other.
right.
So that's how we don't feel apologetic at all. In fact, sometimes when Ivan would say that Mama, don't work out, you come and sleep with me. Which time till I do feel, maybe. But then
Hmm,
I think to myself that, maybe I'll sleep with him today, tomorrow, day after. Day
hmm,
5, day 6, I will start getting irritated that I'm not able to devote time for myself. I'm not able to
right,
spend time for myself. I think that's where we both understand that. And we don't expect either one of us to also play that role because we also feel
right.
that Ivan needs to understand and he
Yeah,
needs to respect it that
right.
he needs to respect that my parents need their own time you
Yeah,
know by themselves and sometimes even with each other. So if we are both talking and then he'll come and interrupt us and we have to tell him that listen, we are chatting right now and you don't get time to catch up. And in this scenario what also happens is twice a week is when we have dinner with our
the
in-laws, with my
family.
in-laws.
Yeah,
Yeah, every Friday and Sunday is family night. While Ivan goes to Dadi house
yeah,
every day,
yeah,
we try and go twice a week at least in the evenings. So we have
yeah,
dinner together, drinks and dinner together. So the whole family is like super happy, high.
yeah,
But generally, so that's what keeps us going.
yeah.
Generally, I mean, it's a small world that we've created for ourselves in this big world, but we're very happy with it.
And how do you find time for Gurjot? And you have your own rituals with the extended family, you have your own rituals with Ivan. So, how does time with Gurjot look like?
Generally, I think initially our time with each other was only talking about Ivan. Then consciously we realized that okay, we can't just be talking about him, and he and I consciously don't discuss work with each other.
Right.
We don't unless it's something that really needs when we really want each other's opinion. Otherwise, in our general conversation it will not be ki aaj office mein aise hua and somebody said this and somebody did this. Our
Right.
conversations are generally very generic about like what's happening around in and around family, people, news, things like that. But
Hmm.
time with him usually happens over the weekends.
Yeah.
So, weekends when Ivan goes to a couple of his classes,
Hmm.
that's when he and I, we find time for ourselves. Sometimes what we do is also that late evenings when he's playing, and if we both get done from work a bit early, so while
Hmm.
he's playing with the nanny, we go out for like walks or
A walk.
something. So just
Yeah.
generally, we'd never thought that we'd become one of those couples, who walk together.
Together.
It's just generally, about catching up and talking. The one good thing about Ivan is that he's very independent, so he can stay with his dadi and nani because he was a COVID baby.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, that initially my mother-in-law was with us and my parents were living with us, he got used to sleeping with them.
Right.
So that was the first thing. I think since he was 9 months old, वहां से हमने आदत डाल दिया था उसको that he would just so we would leave him, we would drop him to my mom's place. He would stay the night with Nani.
Wow.
Of course, because I was still feeding him,
Yeah.
I would have to find windows to go, or I'd have to pump
Yeah.
enough for it to last.
Right.
Gurjot and I sometimes we just take off. Like last day, he had an Ironman championship in Finland,
Yeah.
and we both went for 15 days. And
Yeah.
Ivan was with his dadi dadu throughout, and he was three and a half at that time.
Yeah.
And even now, like in during his summer vacations, he went to Bombay for about 15 days. So we find our own window when he's generally not around, and we have like we just generally get to catch up as people, as friends, as a couple. And in there are like weekends when I'm not working out and all of that. And then when he goes to sleep, then it's just a little bit of us
Yeah.
talking and maybe having a few drinks here and there. Television is not something that we both watch together a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's generally talking and catching up. I think utna bhi time mil jata hai, and then we are happy with that. Like, at least you
Right.
get to talk and know
Yeah.
what's generally happening. Otherwise, you tend to lose track.
It sounds like a very, balanced, and more than balanced, I think it's a very content life that you are leading.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least from the outside, it seems
yeah,
like a very content life, and you know what you want, and you
yeah,
have very, very consciously carved out a path to get
yeah,
to where you want
yes,
to be. And
yes.
it just sounds, even though it's very hectic. I mean, for me, for a person like me,
Mhm.
like, I would not want to stay up late and work. You have consciously chosen to do that. You
Yes,
are doing that. And this is how you want to operate. And
yes.
it's very, it's very inspiring to hear that there is, I mean, of course, there are challenges and there are difficulties,
Mhm.
but it doesn't come across as a roadblock. It
Yeah.
doesn't come across as a barrier. You have your
Mhm.
way around that. So, in today's time, a lot of us are working and are
Mhm.
juggling both motherhood and a career, and then additional responsibilities of managing the household and, managing
Mhm.
family and their expectations, and just doing all these
Mhm.
things together. So,
Mhm.
from your journey, if you were
Mhm.
to say give an advice to someone who's in the same boat but doesn't have the same circumstances, or is not doing so well, what can you tell them?
I would actually say delegate
Hmm.
and then trust the one that you've delegated things to. And you can delegate any part. I mean, see, for me, for example, often, it turns out ki ghar ki groceries mangani hai, so I will have to call or
Yeah.
something. But with Gujot and I, we are very, like, we've decided if it's equal,
Yeah.
then he could have to do something and I could have to do. So we've not defined roles for ourselves.
Right.
क्योंकि ये बंदा यही करेगा, इसका ये काम है. I think we are very flexible, but I think what happens is, and you may feel that, a lot of mothers may relate to this, that there is this need to be in control of things.
Right.
You really want to hold, you want everything under your control and you want everything to be perfect and all right. And
Yeah.
I think in that effort to kind of control the whole situation, control life around us, control every small thing that's happening with the baby, that's where we tend to create more stress for ourselves and also for the ecosystem around us. Now,
Right.
all of us, I agree, will not be as fortunate, touchwood, to have close family
Right.
around, because with family, the equation and the trust is different.
Yeah.
But I would also say that maybe if some, see, what happens is we also tend to feel very guilty about spending.
Yeah.
हाँ
Yeah.
हाँ, नहीं करते,
Hmm.
क्यों कुक रखने की जरूरत है,
Hmm.
हम कर सकते हैं,
Hmm.
or why should we put the child in the crush when
Hmm.
I am at home and I'm managing.
Right.
But I think the advice, like I said, if you don't have people to delegate to,
Hmm.
then take help where you can, and even if it means spending that extra money, because what it does to your own mental peace is something else. When you have one less thing to worry about, whether it is cooking, for me sometimes something as basic as arranging the clothes at home also. Like when you look at a house which is all messy around you, and then you feel like, and then you're snapping at people around you, and then you're cutting it. So then, simple. I mean, hire help, and it's
Yeah.
expensive. It comes at a cost. You could have saved that money. But
Yeah.
I think that anything that can give you more comfort in this early stages of parenthood, because see, we are still young parents, right? Up
Yeah.
until your child is 6 or 7,
Yeah.
fully independent, you're still a young parent. So I feel that young parents should just shamelessly ask for help and take it when it comes,
Yeah. Yeah.
because otherwise, in your endeavor to try and control everything, you are just creating a lot of stress for yourself
Yeah.
and for the ecosystem. So I think that is the one thing that I tell everybody, that seek help, and when it comes, pay for it and take it, because what it will do to your larger life, like you said, we're content, we're happy. And touch wood, see, what happens is your child is also observing you, right? These
Yeah.
are the formative years of your child. In
Yeah.
the first 2 or 3 years, he's observing the world around him.
Yeah.
And what he sees around is what he gathers and absorbs. So
Yeah.
if he starts to see parents who are super stressed out and snapping at each other and, not managing things well, or maybe when the roles are not very clear, or
Yeah.
when they feel, children also tend to gauge कि ये
Yeah.
parent ज़्यादा ये काम कर रहा है, and the other parent,
Yeah.
we were smart enough when we grew up, we realized what our
Yeah.
parents would do, what the mom would do, what the dad would do,
Yeah.
what the rest of the family would do. I think children are very smart. So
Yeah.
if in the early stages they see a nice, content, secure household and a home around them, I think it has a lot of impact, a
Yeah.
positive impact for the long term. So, which
Yeah.
is why I feel that you must ask for help, and when the help comes, learn to trust it. Don't try and control the whole situation. I mean, it's okay. You can let go a little bit, because by letting go of that little bit, you might actually gain so much more.
That's fantastic advice, Deepti. In fact, that reminds me of something that my psychiatrist said during the last stage of my pregnancy.
Mm.
Me and my husband live alone, and my pregnancy was not an easy pregnancy. My doctors termed it as a precious pregnancy. I was battling
Ah.
mental health issues, and I was
Mm.
already 35 when I conceived. All of that was happening, and then I was having a lot of issues during the last part of my pregnancy, especially. I used to just cry so much. I used to just cry to my therapist. I used to cry to my psychiatrist. I used to cry to my gynae. So these were the people who I would go and do my rona dhona with. And my psychiatrist said something. He said that it takes a village to raise a child,
Mm.
and it's very good and fortunate for those people who can build that village with love.
Mm.
But if you can't build that village with money, but
That's
build that village.
yeah.
And that I didn't take that advice very nicely, to be honest,
Mm.
when he said
Mm.
that to me, because I was like, oh my God, I don't need, I'm an independent woman and I'm not going to,
Mm.
take help, and I don't
Mm.
need help. Like, I can do it myself and I'm
Mm.
capable. But I think just before I was to have Rishan, my son, something snapped, and I said, no, I'm going to take all the help that I can.
Yeah.
I started asking family around, and my mom agreed to come and stay with us for a few days. Then I also
Mm.
hired a lot of staff
Mm.
from
Yeah.
immediate, like there were more staff members in my house than there were family members.
Yeah.
But yeah, life became so much easier and so
Mhm.
much more, as you said, it's so much more secure and safe for us as well as for our baby to
Yes.
see, his parents happy, his ecosystem happy. So everything
Yeah.
is just moving around smoothly, and it's okay. Like, you spend on so many other things also. These are the
Yeah.
luxuries of life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
so glad you said that. I think we just have so much guilt in taking help, which is family help or
Yeah.
paid help. It's just so
Mhm.
much guilt. Once you decide to take it, I think life just
You-
becomes
Yeah.
so
I
much
think
better.
you just have to justify it, saying whatever keeps me and my baby healthy,
Yeah,
you know, it's worth the amount.
yeah,
I mean, and again, that also comes from a place of privilege where we can say that,
yeah,
you can afford it. But
yeah,
having said that, if you can, well and good. And if you can't, then like I said, whichever way you can get help,
yeah,
shamelessly take it.
yeah.
कोई
And
उंगली
also,
देगा तो हाथ ही पकड़ लो सीधा. In
yeah.
my room, just take it.
And I think there's also another thing that, which I have realized after becoming a mother, that was not there with me, that there is a lot of unsaid solidarity that you see with fellow moms or fellow
Hmm.
parents, which
Hmm.
just comes because you are raising a child and you
Yes.
suddenly know what the whole drill is all about. And then suddenly you just understand. And sometimes just two nice words of acknowledgement, or I
Hmm.
know, I hear you, I see you, and
Hmm.
don't worry, it'll get better. These things can do wonders. So I also think that if we just reach out to more people, if we just talk,
Hmm.
and maybe help will come.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yes.
And Deepti, if you look back on your journey so far, I'm sure right now you feel that you are too young in this journey, but 4.5 years is a lot of time from where I stand. So, if you're looking back on your journey with Ivan, is there a particular moment or an instance that stands out to you where, which fills you with immense pride? That pride about yourself, how you handled that moment, instance, situation very, very gracefully and beautifully.
I think, with Google, you have so many pictures that keep popping every day, like daily memories,
Yeah,
that there's so much that, you can think of. I think when I look at the way he's shaping up,
yeah,
I think that is something that fills me with a lot of pride. Because, like
yeah,
I said, that, uh, I've seen him when he talks to people.
yeah.
So with Darji Dadima, he talks in Punjabi, and he
Yeah.
doesn't talk with Punjabi to anybody else, with anyone else.
Oh, hmm.
But so he will speak with them in Punjabi, and when he's so gentle with them,
Yeah,
when they are walking with their walking sticks,
yeah,
when he goes and holds their hands, or when he actually, now that he's starting to get a bit older, like, we've been trying to teach him things like, you need to say namaste or sashrikal,
hmm.
and he'd be like, hello, because everybody says hello in school.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, that's fine. You can say that too, but you need
yeah,
to know that this too. So when I see him, just gently going and touching someone's feet, I think those are the things that make me feel, that yeah, I think it's fine. I think he'll shape up to be a good child. When
yeah,
I see him talk politely, when I see him say, yes, please, no, thank you, things like that. I
yeah,
think those are the things that I'm really, really going to remember. These things that happen, I think that fills me with a lot of pride that,
yeah,
yeah, fine, we're raising a good kid.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, we feel that everything else in its place, if the child is secure, and like I said much earlier in this conversation,
yeah,
that kindness is not a language that people speak these days.
yeah,
We want to consciously build him in a way where, his in his ecosystem, things like kindness, being on the right side of things, those kind of values are right now what we are because he's in that age, right? After three
yeah,
and a half, he start to understand.
yeah,
And when he does a few of those things, I think that kind of leaves me with a lot of pride, but also other smaller things, Neha. So when I think of things, and when I look back at like like I said, that the memories that we've created, maybe because he was born during COVID, in the first 1.5 years, we didn't have too many avenues to take him out and do a
yeah,
lot of things with him. We ended up doing very basic things. So for his second birthday, for example, and it was still the second phase of that lockdown, people were
yeah,
still being very cautious about things and all of that. And we said, Kaha, what to do on his birthday? And then we realized that he likes animals and cows.
yeah,
So we took him to a gaushala, like a
yeah,
local gaushala in Gurgaon,
hmm,
and he had a ball.
hmm,
And that's when we also realized that, you mold your own child. You
yeah,
mold. So if your child is used to, I mean, if you show him and expose him to fancy things, maybe that's what the child is going to ask. If you show him something else, I think that's how you're going to mold the child. So a lot of our good memories actually come from those very, very simple instances that we had. And we really saw him like smile and get so excited.
yeah,
That's when we really realized that, like, like children are so simple,
yeah,
they'll just, it's like whatever you give in and they'll just take. So I
yeah,
think those are the moments when I look at those very, very simple memories of, maybe you baked a cake at home and then he'd be
yeah,
like super happy saying, oh, this cake at home, cake at home. It's
yeah,
those simple things, I think, that everyday joys
yeah.
is what kind of makes us feel very happy and fills us with a lot of pride
That's
when we look at us, that's what.
Yeah, and it's so heartening to see that glow on your face when you
Mhm.
speak about those memories. Like you're just beaming with pride, and
Yeah,
your
yeah,
words, like you don't need to say the words. Your face says it all, and it's
yeah,
just such a privilege to see that
yeah.
play out in action.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that with us, Deepti. And
Mhm.
like I'm very interested to know, because you had so much time to plan your journey into parenthood, and you have planned it very well. So 10 long years that maybe you were preparing yourself for this role. So is there still something that you think about if you were given a chance to say sit across your pre-parent self? And is there something that you learned along the way now that you are a parent that you would like to tell yourself, say 4.5 years back?
No, I think what I would actually definitely tell my pre-parent self was that parenthood is better than what you'd imagined. I would seriously say so.
Yeah,
Because that journey initially of, like you said, that we got to know each other very, very early in life. We were in
yeah,
college, and you first don't talk about marriage that soon,
Yeah.
but after a few years, it starts to sink in that maybe you have to get married. But I think having a child was a conscious decision. We kept it away for quite some time. There was a point in time when we were thinking
Yeah.
whether we want to have a child or no, because
Yeah.
increasingly we were also noticing that a lot of our friends were choosing not to have kids.
Yeah.
But I think at some point we decided that we do want to, for both of us to take our own relationship to the next level, because we really
Yeah.
started out as kids
Yeah.
together. And we just thought that maybe it could add a lot more meaning to our lives,
Yeah.
having a child and creating something together. So once we kind of realized that, I think that's when we were quite prepared for
Yeah.
what was to lie ahead. And much earlier in this journey, I think we decided that, like I said, that we decided that we'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
We'll have faith in our own ability as individuals.
Hmm.
So, because it's a conversation that of course people have these days, that it's not easy to raise a child, it's
Yeah.
very expensive to raise a child, and schools are expensive and all of that. But at some point we both decided that we know ourselves. We
Hmm.
have faith in ourselves and our own capabilities and our own decisions. I
Yeah.
think that faith that we had. So I think I'd actually go back to my, younger self and say, it's fine, it was better, and it's good that you had that faith in yourself, because I think that then the way you approach the whole journey
Yeah.
becomes very different. So I think, yeah, maybe that's long short of it. That's what I would say to myself. That
Yeah, yeah. And now that you've spoken about your journey, I think it's very sorted, from
Mhm.
where I stand, it looks like very sorted. But
Mhm.
if you were to think, and if there was a service or a product that would have existed, and you think that that would make your parenting journey even easier or even more enjoyable, what would
Mhm.
that be? Have you ever wondered about that?
No, I haven't thought about it like that, that what could, but I know that definitely what would make my parenting journey a bit more easier is the lesser junk food in our lives, I think right now we're going through that phase as parents where he started to go to school, and so while the school does not encourage large birthday parties and too
Yeah,
much of cake, etc., from outside. Off and on, children do end up eating like a toffee or something here and there.
yeah,
Now, suddenly, in the past 1 year since he started going to school, maybe to somebody else's tiffin,
yeah,
he's gotten introduced to a whole lot of things.
yeah,
And then he asks for those things,
yeah,
and we don't give him those things.
yeah,
So I think what we are finding really difficult right now as parents is to hold him back from certain things. Like,
yeah,
we can't say no to sugar. I mean, we
mm,
say no to sugar
yeah,
as much as possible.
yeah,
And there is enough of good khilao, and ghar se good aayega. Like the good will also come straight from Punjab, from like a
yeah,
particular place, or do khajur, etc. But
yeah,
generally, like there's just so much of junk around in his
yeah,
life that we. So, for example, the things that I had to do.
yeah.
So one fine day, this bugger bought a Kinder Joy,
Oh,
okay, from the store. वो अब so he took Gurjot, and surprisingly, Gurjot did not know what Kinder Joy is, okay? So Ivan made him buy this. He said, "Oh, I've seen this in school, and there's a
yeah,
toy inside."
yeah,
So Gurjot said, "Must be a toy or something." So he
yeah,
bought it. Then he came home and he showed me, and I work in the food industry,
yeah,
right? And I, who bought this crap home? And he's like, "Oh, nobody asked for it." And they were like, "No, Mama, I want it because I ate it in school, and somebody bought it in their tiffin."
hmm.
And Neha, you will not believe, I took the Kinder Joy inside. I put red chili powder in that Kinder Joy. I mixed it and I gave it to Ivan. And I
Oh,
said, "Eat."
hmm,
And then he ate and he took like one small bite. I don't like.
hmm,
Then there was a phase that he went through that he wanted lollipops. So I would
hmm,
do the same thing. I would get lollipops home, put them in dip them in red chili sauce, and then give it to him and say, "Eat." I don't know if there was any service that could make it better, but I
yeah,
do feel that what should really stop is
hmm,
this whole unhealthy eating
yeah,
and unhealthy content. I think
yeah,
these are the things that I find like right now at this phase when the child is also becoming more assertive. Right now, these are the most challenging aspects of parenting for us. How do we kind of draw that line between, so
yeah.
those things I wish that somebody could have created some things that would have helped keep these things at bay, but it's just around you.
Because there's
Yeah.
just so much exposure, there's so many loopholes, एंड
Yes,
आप कितना बंद करोगे ना, मतलब
बिल्कुल.
कहीं ना कहीं से इट विल जस्ट ओवरफ्लो.
First time, so he's not had an ice cream outside at all. We made ice cream for him at home when we had
Yeah,
to give him ice cream. I know till date he's had just one cream biscuit in life. Like we've never given him cream. It's tough to,
yeah,
and I think as a child, I mean, I'll give him full credit for that also. That I know he acts stubborn,
yeah,
but he's not the type to kind of throw a tantrum for hours together and
yeah,
misbehave. So once
yeah,
we do put our foot down, I mean, he is a child and he has his
yeah,
own moments of disappointment. But we are very grateful that we can kind of snap him out of it very
yeah.
quickly with something else. But I think those are the challenges that one faces once the child starts to grow slightly older and it
Yeah.
starts to explore the world around them.
What I really love about this is that, you have created your own little tips and tricks to navigate the situation, that, dipping it in the lal mirchi and all of that. Like this, I'm sure you have learned a lot of little tricks along the way. What is that one go-to or a favorite hack that you resort to every time as a parent, or you think that, oh my God, this is my thing and I have discovered it?
I always say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that he asks for,
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be the parent who says no.
Uh-huh.
I do because I think the more you say no, 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 ye nahi hoga, you can't do this, don't go there. Don't. I consciously, both Gurjot and I, we try to avoid negative conversations. We
Mm-hmm.
try and keep them positive. So
Mm-hmm.
if we asked, say for example, that, oh, I want a lollipop.
Hmm.
Yes, you
Hmm.
will get it. You
Hmm.
dip it in halal mirch and give that a separate story.
Hmm.
Now he's starting to insist that I want to watch TV.
Hmm.
Yes,
Hmm.
let's first finish dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we're teaching him that when the clock, the hand
Hmm.
is on this number right now, when
Yeah.
it reaches that number, we
Hmm.
can switch it off. You
Yeah.
may not like it,
Yeah.
but it's okay. So for me, the hack is I keep saying yes to everything. When I
Yeah.
say yes, the
Hmm.
child, I mean, he's learned to trust me fully
Right.
because he knows
Right.
that mama will not really. And then when those few occasions when I say no,
He means
he
that it's a no.
basic things like we're very cautious about how he dresses. We don't like him roaming around the house half naked, yeah,
Yeah.
wherever. I mean, even
Yeah.
if he's with family, I mean, those small,
Yeah.
small things. So he
Yeah.
knows that that's a big no and
Yeah.
that I can't do that.
Yeah.
But then the big hack is I think the more you say yes,
Yeah.
the child learns to trust you. And once they trust you fully, you know, I think then the equation and the conversation becomes very different. So I would say to everyone, always say yes.
Hmm.
Let the child know that you've always got their back. You're always on their side. You're always batting for them. I
Yeah.
think that kind of gives them a different kind of confidence because I think that maybe you could go back as to your own childhood. In my childhood, there were a lot of no's.
Yeah.
ये मत करो, वो मत करो, यहाँ मत जाओ, वहाँ मत जाओ, ये मत खाओ, ऐसे नहीं खाओ. So I think that when the relationship starts with a no, after a time when you grow up, when you're
Yeah.
like after 7, 8 years, when your parents are not the center of your universe and you
Yeah.
start to explore, I think then you tend to also drift apart.
Right.
So, which is why I feel that a relationship with the child has to be based on a yes.
Yeah. Such valuable advice. It seems like such a small thing. And why would you become a yes mom? You hear all these terms floating around that you need to put boundaries and you need to do this, but learning your thinking behind
Mhm.
that action, it's not thoughtless. It's not random. It's not because you are trying to prove a point. There is a
Mhm.
lot of thought gone into why it has come into
Mhm.
being and why it exists. I think it's so beautiful, and I'm glad that you're sharing all of these with us, because I'm sure 10 years of your preparation and 4.5 years of living it out, so almost 15 years of your parenting wisdom distilled for us in this little conversation. It's a
Yeah.
delight to our ears.
Thank you so much.
So, Deepti, to wrap it all up, I know whatever you've said for us till now, it has been a lesson in parenting, and not just in parenting, but I think in a way how to live life and how to be present in your life in every moment, in every instance. But if you were to give a parting advice or share an insight with our listeners, maybe who are juggling work, family, and a whole lot of other things. Is there something that you would want to say?
The other thing that I go by, learn to trust that everybody is doing their best. You should also feel that you are doing your best. You
Mm-hmm.
should have the faith that everybody else is doing their best,
Yeah,
because then you come from a position of confidence and trust. Otherwise, if you feel that you are not doing enough, you are putting yourself in a guilt trip.
yeah,
Then you feel, oh, somebody else is also not doing enough. They could have also done something more. That person could have done something more. I feel that maybe it all adds up here and there, because it just comes from that fundamental thing of learning to trust, having your own ecosystem. But I think it's also about acknowledging that everyone around you is also doing their best. And the second advice I would honestly say to all moms, find that time for yourself and don't feel guilty about doing it.
yeah,
Because there is something that has to keep you ticking. I ended up doing an Ironman last year, like a half Ironman. We're both triathletes.
yeah,
Gurjot is, of course, a triathlete of a different league altogether.
yeah.
But we are both triathletes, right? One of the reasons that I did an Ironman was basically I realized I've become a mom very late in life and that I need to get fitter for my child, because
Yeah,
suddenly when your child is saying, "Oh, mama, let's go and run and let's play," and then you're saying, "Nee, aao baitho, let's read a book, let's
yeah.
paint, let's draw." You just want to be a part of that active lifestyle of your child,
Lifestyle.
right?
Yeah,
But for me to get to that, I just gave myself threw a challenge at myself, saying, "Let me see if I can do an Ironman or no." But doing that Ironman in a period of 5 months required me to put 2.5 hours of training every day and almost 4 hours of training over the weekend. Which is a lot of time. Also working, and you have like this whole ecosystem around you.
yeah,
But I know Joe told me that you don't have to feel guilty about it. It's
yeah,
something that you're doing for yourself.
yeah.
And if you feel good about it, eventually everybody else is going to feel good about it. And
Right.
it'll reflect in your own behavior towards everyone else. So
Yeah,
I think the one thing which is a rule is that I don't ever, ever, ever feel guilty for investing anything in myself. And that's what I would tell all moms. As much as we want the best for our families, and like I said, spend to keep your life,
yeah,
you seek help, you spend for help, but that also means that you're doing it for your own comfort. And don't ever feel guilty about investing anything in your own comfort and for your own life, because you really deserve it. I mean, we all deserve it. And
yeah,
it's not all of us, we're balancing a lot of roles, right? We're working and we're also ambitious women. So it's not like it'll help if you're lagging behind in your work.
yeah,
You're not the type. You don't come from that value system where you say, "Achha, kal kar denge."
yeah,
It's about, if you could do it now, you should have done it maybe yesterday. I mean, I come from that school
yeah,
of thought.
yeah,
Just so when you want to do everything and when you want to sort of play this role of where you're the mother, you're also the wife, you're a daughter-in-law, you're a granddaughter-in-law,
yeah,
you're also managing your own home, right? So
yeah,
you're like, you have a staff that you need to manage.
yeah, yeah,
So when you're doing all of that, and there are so many roles that we're all playing on a daily basis, I think we should be easy on ourselves and just say, "Fine, I deserve it," and that's okay. So if
yeah,
it's a manicure you want, a pedicure you want, go get it done. I mean, whatever.
yeah,
That's not something that ticks me, it's something else,
yeah,
but whatever it is,
yeah.
just don't feel guilty about it. I think that's what I would also add in my final parting note.
Much needed words to hear, especially for all the moms who constantly feel, guilty,
Mhm.
whether it's a justified guilt or an unjustified guilt. I don't think there's
Mhm.
something called a justified guilt, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's very valuable what you said. And Deepti, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story. It's been a pleasure catching up after so many years and hearing about your
Yeah.
experiences. And I think your journey is a reminder that, teamwork, open communication, and having a support network, support system around you, the ecosystem, it can make
Mhm.
all the difference in navigating parenthood. It's a beautiful chaos, as you have demonstrated it for us today. And we are all in this together. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all these nice, kind words. And thank you for actually calling me here and listening to it, because, I mean, everybody has their own journey. So when I was talking to you about it, also made me go through a lot of emotions myself.
Yeah.
So, I was just like, you said, maybe somewhere in my expressions you could see the sense of happiness or pride or the glow that you spoke of. So I think I really enjoyed having that conversation with you because it just made me relive a lot of things for the past 4.5 years and how things are. So really, thank you for having me over, Neha.
I'm sure, as you said, that you have relived those many years of parenting by being on this show. Our listeners will also enjoy listening to you on this episode of Parenthood. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed it and found inspiration in Deepti's story. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen so you don't miss out on the future episodes. We'd love to hear from you, so share your thoughts and stories with us. Until next time, embrace the beautiful chaos of parenthood. This is Neha Garg signing off. Take care and stay connected.